Hi, it's Jared from Strongroots Farm. Welcome back to the farm. Today we are talking wood chips. I want to talk to you about the pros and cons of wood chips, how to get wood chips, what we use them for here on our farm, and the improvements that you will see by using wood chips. Stick around, we're going to go through it all. Welcome back to the channel. We did a little recap video here a couple days ago, and I showed you the wood chips and a little bit how we used it if you're following along and you're subscribing. But today I want to get into the specifics of wood chips. So I got these wood chips from a local tree service. They got a contract with the local power company to cut the power lines. They are bringing the wood chips here. But I was dry on wood chips for about 1.5 years. So 2 years ago, we got about 50 loads. We used it, it was wonderful. And then they just shut off. The contract ran out. The tree company left the area. I couldn't get anybody else to deliver for me. I tried chip drop. I tried all these Facebook posts. I tried everything. It just shut off. And then I finally found somebody and I simply just went up to them. So a local friend of mine actually clued me in that they were coming back to the area. They got a new contract. And so I met somebody in a little supermarket parking lot. They were there eating lunch. I gave them my card. I had my address on it. And so I just pushed and pushed and pushed on these guys. Other friends were getting wood chips. I had them talk to them and talk to them. And finally, they started delivering, okay? And so first thing here is, how do you get them to start delivering? And it's really hard. It's not easy. It's going to be different in every area. And so what I want to tell you is, once they learn that you're a good place to dump wood chips and you have a secure location, and I'll talk to you about what you need to have really for them, they'll continue to dump. If it's easy for them to dump, if it's safe for them to dump, and they can do it over and over and over. If you're just looking for 1 or 2 loads, they might pass by you. If you'll take 50, they'll love you. All right, so the first thing I know that the tree guys like me for is this gravel area to turn their big truck around. Understand, they're coming in with this 2 or 3 ton truck. It's a double axle truck, big box on the back. It has this big heavy chipper that's attached to it, right? When they come in with a load, they come down my lane, they have to back up and unhook that chipper in order to back up in here and dump these wood chips. So the first thing is, do you have an easy access? Is it easy to get into your property and drop a trailer, dump the chips, and hook back to the trailer, or chipper in this case? Is it easy for them? If it's difficult, if they have to climb a huge hill, if they have to leave the chipper at the road, you're probably not gonna get too many wood chips. This is where a barnyard, a barn lot that is rock, that is solid, they're not gonna get in mud and get stuck. This is where it's beneficial. That is how you get them to continue to come back over and over. The other thing you have to have is a good place to dump. Now you'll see there's some tracks here with rain. We got 2.5 inches of rain last night. So their tracks are just filled with water. They didn't get stuck up in here. If they feel like they're gonna get stuck, they're not gonna dump on your property. This is a hard packed clay layer where they're dumping. It is about 2 foot higher, the dirt is, than the driveway in order to keep it drained. And I have tile on each side. Now this is a future barn site. That's why I built this pad. I didn't build it for the wood chips, but you need to have something like this where they can back up in. They don't have to worry about getting so tight that they hit something. If they have to navigate through equipment and around stuff, it's gonna be annoying for them and they're gonna dump somewhere else. So you need a wide open space. That road cone is not my road cone. That actually ended up in the wood chips. And that is one of the negative of these tree companies, is sometimes there's trash, there's debris, or even a road cone that you may have to deal with. So personally, I know that's what I'm getting. And since it's free and it's a great quality carbon product that I can get here for free, I deal with it. I deal with the pop bottles. It's so easy for them to just throw their trash away and not chuck them up in their truck. But I get it, it's hot, they're doing their job, and that's just a quick place to throw it. And so I deal with it. When I spread wood chips out, we're constantly looking, and I'll tell you, every load they dump here has at least 1 pop bottle or water bottle in it. So it's something I deal with. I don't complain about it, but if you start nitpicking and complaining and constantly being a pest about it, especially when it's free, they're probably not gonna dump a lot. The other thing that I've set up is I have cameras. And so they know, they see the cameras. I don't hide my cameras, all of them at least. And so they know they're in camera. It keeps me safe, it keeps them safe, so that nobody can accuse them of anything, and I don't have to worry about them doing anything. That's another added feature that you may wanna have in the area where they're dumping. They know they're always on camera, and they know I'm not gonna come after them for if they ran over something in my yard, if they put a track on the side of my driveway. I'm not gonna nitpick these guys for them. They're working guys, and so they know how to do it now. They came out, they saw the area, they said it was fine, they knew where I expected them to be, and they know they're on camera. It keeps them safe and them honest, and me safe and me honest. All right, so that's how we got them, and that's been the hardest part of Woodchips, getting Woodchips, is how do you get them? How do you get them to start delivering and give you what you want? There it is. That's the best information I can give you. There's never been a perfect solution of how to get them every time. Even on Chip Drop, when I offered money, I had trouble getting people to bring Woodchips here. It's simply making a connection and keeping that connection good. As easy as it is for them, stress-free and positive for them, that's the only way I know how to do it. Now let's get into what do we do with our Woodchips. So to start, the Woodchips have become our #1 source of bedding for our cattle in the winter. And it also covers our feeding areas, if you will. We call this a feed lot. It is 18 inches of rock underneath here. It is a heavy use pad, USDA heavy use pad, meets those standards at least. But we put the Woodchips on here because it's softer for the animals than rock. It absorbs moisture, which is really bad when it's not covered up. It'll absorb rain, but it does absorb manure and those kind of things. If they would urinate or poo in this area, it collects that we can later then spread on our field. And also when they're spread out like this, because it's nothing but carbon and there is some leaves in the springtime, so you're getting a little bit of nitrogen from the leaves and the things on the trees. But with the rain and being flat like this and being walked on, they will break down a little faster, and then eventually we will scrape this off and spread this on our fields as a compost. We also use this to bed our pigs. We also use this in our barn, and we put this 6 or 8 inches deep the very first time. And then when it starts to get wet and slimy on the top, we go in and we put more of this in. Old hay, straw. I've not had great luck with straw, which is like a wheat chaff. Okay, because they spray the wheat with Roundup around here. So it's been hard on my compost, making compost. But Woodchips doesn't have those harmful chemicals. That's why I prefer this method. But there are some things you gotta watch out for, and let's talk about those. Woodchips, when they come in, they're not selective on the tree, at least tree companies when they're cleaning power lines, right? Whatever tree is there, they're clipping. And there are some trees that are harmful to cattle. Okay, cherry being the #1 here in our area that are toxic to cattle. Cattle can handle some, just kind of like a endophyte with fescue, but it's very little with cherry trees, right? What is toxic, you have to know that about each tree or thing in your area. Cherry trees, it's the leaf when it's wilted down. As it's wilting in the fall, those leaves are toxic. Or when they first fall in the fall. If they pick those up and eat them off the ground, they can be toxic. Now, if they get a little bit and they move on, a lot of cattle are fine. We don't see a lot of death from cattle from cherry trees in our area, but most cattle farmers in our area, if they see a cherry tree on their farm, they cut it down and they burn it because they don't want to take the risk of cattle getting into that cherry tree, into those leaves and getting toxicity. And so do I have to worry about that with Woodchips? Absolutely. There's a tree, cherry tree gets chipped, the leaves come with it, and they begin to wilt down. So the best way to solve that is to let them dry out and compost a little bit first. I would recommend covering them as well. The more they dry out, the better they will work as bedding. Here in this scenario, in this open yard where it's gonna rain on them, they will not be great dry, a carbon source to absorb that manure, be that carbonaceous diaper, as Salatin would say. You need to dry them out somehow, whether that's tarping them or whether that's putting them in a barn, building some kind of a covering to put them in. It will help them. And you can alleviate some of these toxicity issues with wood chips by letting them heat up, dry out, and break down a little bit before you use them as bedding. Now, we use these wood chips for our cattle and for our pigs. This stuff obviously did not sit and dry out and break down a long time. I brought it in the day it was dumped and I let it sit out here. Now, there's no cattle in this area and there won't be for another month, so it has plenty of time for those things to die off. And I'll tell you, as long as they can get out to green grass, they're not gonna dig through wood chips for leaves, especially when they're toxic, when they have much more palatable forage out there. So it's more risky in the winter or when you leave your cattle in the woods and there's not a lot of forage for them to eat. But in this method, you have to worry about it very little, but there is some concerns there, so that's why I'm bringing it up to you. Pigs, cattle, I've had no problem with the wood chips. Sheep and goats, I've heard other things and I've heard mixed signals. You're gonna need to talk to somebody that's more of an expert on the sheep and the goats, but I know people around here that use this bedding the same for their sheep and goats as we do for our cattle, so I would assume everything is being the same. Please consult your local vet. Now, one major pro for wood chips for bedding versus any other product is the amount of carbon that it is and how well it breaks down. Even old hay. So old hay has nitrogen in it, right? It has a nitrogen side to the C/N ratio. I want as much carbon as I can get because my cattle are dropping my nitrogen. I want that to draw in. I want dry carbon. That's what I'm looking for. Wood chips, and my favorite is really sawdust. Sawdust makes the best bedding and carbonaceous diaper for stuff, if anything I've had, but wood chips is definitely second. It breaks down into a black, really just nasty, dark, thick smelling, organic smelling material that is wonderful for your soil. Tons of microbiology in it. And so it breaks down like that. It's not great for your mulch in your front of your house, perhaps. Some people do use it for that and like it for that. But as far as bedding, it has been the best thing that I can get, and you can't argue with the price. But there are some cons, and we talked about the toxicity and we talked about the trash from the wood chippers. Those are two major cons, obviously, but there are some other cons with this. If you do not add enough nitrogen, so it's a very high carbonaceous product, right? This wood chip. If you don't add the nitrogen to it, if you don't add grasses and leaves and manure and anything else to it, it will take a long time for them to break down till they're ready to spread on your field. That is one negative with this. But if you have any amount of head of whatsoever, you can take this and it will absorb the manure and you will know. It will turn black. It will become just like bagged mulch that you would buy almost. It will be broke down. If the chipper makes large chunks, so let's see here, you can see some large pieces there. Those will never really break down all the way. I don't sift this, I don't screen it, I don't do anything to get just what I want out of it and then let the rest break down longer. I just simply pile it up. So they go the winter, they manure on it, we pigerator it sometimes we take it out and pile it back up, let it compost for another 6 months or so, or 4 months. And we like to spread at different times of the year, but right now we're spreading after we bale hay on that hay ground to add nutrients. And so that's about how we do it as far as how long do you let it break down. And the negative with that is if you don't have enough nitrogen, this carbon will pull nitrogen from out in your pastures, or so they say. And I word it like that because that is what a lot of people are telling me that is a huge negative for wood chips. They're all worried about if you put wood chips on your pasture, it will pull nitrogen out of the top of your soil away from your grasses in order to break that wood chip down. I've never had that problem. My wood chips, everywhere I've ever spread them on my pasture, has become some of the best pastures on our farm the following season, right? It adds a ton of organic material, a ton of nitrogen, and there's lots of other things in there because we put the cattle on it and we use it for the cattle. But bedding is not the only thing we use wood chips for around here. So what are some of the other things? Well, in the past, and I'll tell you, it's been one of my favorite things in our market garden, right? And I don't have a great market garden to show you here. The setup isn't here, but we would use the standard market gardening Curtis stone 30-inch rows, right? We would mound up our soil about 6 inches high. We would cover it with compost that we would purchase or we would make, and we would grow in fabric. Drip irrigation, fabric, wonderful low maintenance garden, low weeding. That's how we did it. But we had these 16-inch walkways. I created a 16-inch walkway because I had a 16-inch rake. And the walkway was where I used these wood chips. So in order to keep mud off of our feet, if it would be wet, if we would get a lot of rain, but we would still want to go out and prune or sucker out our tomatoes or even just harvest anything, we wouldn't want to get mud on our feet, and we didn't put grass down. We didn't want seed in there. So we put wood chips in our walkways. What I found was 3 or 4 inches of wood chips in the walkways became, one, a nice clean place to walk and harvest. It also gave people that wasn't us, that we let people come into our garden and harvest. It gave them a clear path, a clear walkway to walk on in our garden, so they knew, stay on the wood chips. And then over time, because of the foot pressure from harvesting, our soil maintained its fluffiness. It didn't become compact, but our aisles would become more compact. But we were compacting wood chips, water, and whatever excess would come out of our beds. It would create compost. At the end of the year, we would take that walkway, put it back up onto our beds, and then overwinter it, and then we would simply till it in the spring and top with more compost. So walkways for your garden, around your beds, around your garden, creating a 4-foot walkway around your garden to keep weeds down. Wood chips are a great product. The other thing we use our wood chips for is around our orchard trees. One, it helps to keep the grasses down, which we don't use fabric around our trees. So you can see we're getting a little bit of grass that we top off with a weeder, hit around the mower. I would love to have my entire orchard covered in wood chips. And maybe if we get enough, we will cover this entire area with 4 inches of wood chips just to make great soil underneath, but to keep the grass down, we wouldn't have to mow this area. I've done that before at other farms, but for now, we're putting it just around this. Now, I will kind of warn you a little bit. I don't really recommend wood chips solid like this on a brand new tree unless you top it over compost. So when I plant a brand new tree, I've got some videos on that, but you want the compost to be up there so that the tree can feed from it, whereas these wood chips won't necessarily feed your tree. It'll take them a long time to break down. Also, if you blow grass into the wood chips, it does help it, but it doesn't look as nice. And so you end up with something like this because my kid blew all the grass right on the tree. But we like to put it around there, especially the second year. And then you'll see it's kind of pulled away from the stump there a little bit. Hopefully you can tell that. You don't want the wood chips up tight. The negative for this, and some of the warning of people in their orchard trees that have told me, is that if there was a fungus in this wood that they cut down, you could then bring it to your trees. And so there's a warning there. I haven't had issues with that, but I'm not a great permaculture orchardist, per se. We just try to plant an orchard at every farm that we've ever built. This is only really our second one. And so this is actually our third orchard that we've put in, but our second farm that had a farm orchard. And we use these wood chips around there. We really like it. And of course, you can use the wood chips in your flower beds, anywhere else that you have that you just want to mulch down with something. They're great for that, to keep down grasses. I've seen people put them in walking paths in the woods. I've seen people put them, around their trees and flower beds in just their normal yard trees, around edges of woods. So if you mow in your yard and then you have woods that match up to your grass, you can spread them the first 2 or 3 feet in, and it keep that down so briars and stuff doesn't grow, makes that look nice. There's a lot of use for those things, but there is one thing that I thought would work that has turned out bad, and that is at our gates. So I thought we had all these wood chips 2 years ago. We had gate openings, and cattle go in and out sometimes, and every gate opening is an opportunity for a mud pit. If it's raining a lot and cows are coming in and out to water, it mostly happens in the winter here. They'll come in and out of those gated areas and they mash it down. It becomes a high traffic area, and then you get pugging and muddiness. So I had the idea, well, why not just cover it with 6 inches of wood chips at every gate? So the entire width of the gate, 20 foot before the gate and 20 foot after the gate, all around in a nice pad. I put wood chips at like 5 gates to test this out. And the first winter, it was nice. It did fine. They walked on it, they didn't muddy it up. I thought, this is great. They were free. I don't have to put gravel down. I'm not getting damage. Yes, I lose a little bit of grazing, but they were muddying that up anyways. It's great. And then the next year came. And so what happened year 2 was that all of those wood chips that I put there, they became mush and they started to break down. I thought, well, I'll just top them again. What happened was it created so much organic material in that high traffic area that it just held water all the time. It would never dry out. And so it was always squishy until it became mud the following winter. So if you're gonna put wood chips at a gated area, you can take it through winter, but in the spring, if I ever do this again, I'll scrape them off and spread them and put brand new wood chips back down for the following season. But I've just been going back with gravel. If I have a high traffic area that I can't keep them from muddying it up, and it's just the way my farm is designed, I'm using something like geotextile fabric with a good 304 kind of a crusher mix gravel with some larger stone in it, packing it in there. 1, it causes the cattle to slow down a little bit as they go through a gate. And 2, it creates that high impact control so that you don't muddy all those up, kind of like people would do around their automatic waterers. Well, there you have it. As we always say, that is wood chips on the farm. I think they are a great product. I use them all the time. As many as I can get, I will take. And so we will use them for bedding, or if I have too much that we can't use for bedding, we can't put around our trees, I'll simply leave them piled, let it rain on them, and let them compost, turn them 3 or 4 times. And in a year or 2, which it'll take that long, I'll simply spread them on my field and add more organic matter, natural fertilizer back to my fields, right? It's not putting synthetic fertilizers on there. It's not the same, but we don't do that. So we're increasing the microbiology in our soil with natural products, no harmful chemicals. If you have questions, if you disagree, please comment down below. Let me know what you think. If you've got another solution, if you like to do something else with it, one thing would be like a vermicompost. If you have a worm farm, some people use these for that. I don't have that, but if you have something else that you use wood chips for, let us know. If I did something that you're concerned about, like the fungus for the trees, I had somebody tell me one time, if you're seeing me do something that you think is wrong or causes a problem, put it down there for our viewers and let's discuss it. Gives me something to grow myself through my own channel. Thanks for watching. Until next time.